Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 8th of July, year of our Lord 2020-24. Welcome to yet another edition of The Gulping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a big medium show for you guys today, as the NBA offseason, the seemingly never-ending NBA calendar season, does just keep plugging away. Pistons fans, I guess we're just diving head first into this one. I gotta be honest with you guys. I am a Pistons fan at the end of the day. I don't label this a Detroit Pistons show, but for all intents and purposes, in some way that it is. And so because of that, you would expect that about a week into free agency, exactly a week into free agency, just about 48 hours after the moratorium officially closed, that, of course, with my favorite team making a bunch of moves and kind of getting involved in the action, that I would be talking about them. But I got to be honest with you, I'm surprised, because a couple of weeks ago after the draft, I swore this team. I mean, that's not the moment that I swore them off, but that's the last time that I expressed to in a more nuanced way how done with them I am and why I'm done with them. And I said at some point over the offseason, the Pistons will do something that will get me talking in a way that makes it sound like I'm doing the thing again, where I believe in the team. Even when ultimately it just has to be a I'll believe it when I see it thing at this point, because we've just and it's not exclusive to the Pistons, by the way. I mean, is it not the most relatable feeling in the world that you just like GM after GM, you just like keep doing some stuff on the margins every single, you just get like one or two vets. You make one or two moves, you pick like one or two guys in the draft, and you convince yourself every year, and then it like seemingly never happens. And I don't mean like, I mean like in the way that it hasn't happened for Detroit for 15 years now. The way that it didn't happen for Sacramento for like 25 years, which we'll talk about Sacramento in a little bit. So, okay, so if you're Detroit, I say all of that just to say, damn, I kind of can't stop talking about them. I kind of can't stop. I don't want to say refalling in love with my favorite basketball team, because I'm really not there yet, dude. The Summer League hasn't even started. They haven't played but this is still the team that the most recent example of basketball that we've seen from them is them winning 14 games and losing 68, by the way. And then after that record, you picked fifth for the third consecutive year. You have the worst record in the NBA, picked fifth for the third consecutive year. Okay. But how does it feel, Pistons fans, to have NBA players on your team? How does that feel? How does it feel to have them on good value, by the way? Because you go get Tim Hardaway Jr., the contract is the contract. He's not a good example to start with in terms of good value. But if we're talking about NBA players on this Pistons team, guys that, you know, if you look at Cade's career and the teammates that he's had, who have been the best shooters? Bogdanovich, Alec Burks, Sadiq Bey. I think maybe there's another marginal one in there that I'm forgetting. But other than that, okay, so you bring in Tim Hardaway Jr. I have literally no notes, which, by the way, you got how many second-round picks sent your way in that deal? 2 or 3 of them? You got a handful of them. You want to flip those into something? That's cool. And then the Pistons use patience to their advantage. Somehow, Malik Beasley still on the board a couple days into free agency. Pistons snatch him up. 1-year deal. $6 million from the Milwaukee Bucks. What the hell? What? Malik Beasley and his three-point volume alone as an individual is like, he makes up for like Killian and Hamidou, and I don't even know who else, like Isaiah Stewart, Jaden, Ivey, like all these dudes three is like combined, like Malik Beasley beats up on $6 million, by the way. Because does that not have, if you try to go after Malik Beasley and you're like really pushing it in the first 2 days of the moratorium, what does that look like? 3 years, 27 for Malik Beasley? 3 for 25? Something in that ballpark? But instead, you waited, and other teams just forgot that Malik Beasley was there, and you got him for $6 million? That's just smart shit. Like, we're doing like Moneyball shit, like in real time. And then this is what I really bury the lead on. This is what we spent an hour on Friday's episode evading this. I didn't talk about this at all, ladies and gentlemen. Tobias Harris is a Detroit Piston. 2 years, $52 million on like a really good contract. Like a really reasonable contract. $26 million for 17, 18 points a game. Hell yes, by the way. On like, I don't know, 50 and like 39% from the field. Yes. Yeah. From a 31-year-old? Yeah. From a position of need? Yes. And I think the reason, just to be fair to myself, just to show myself some grace and be kind to myself for once, I think the reason that I forgot to talk about it, honestly, is because we spent so many, genuinely, months on this program, and just in general as Pistons fans, talking about like, hey, so when the Tobias Harris thing happens, how are we feeling about it? And as the months went on, the zeitgeist seemingly warmed up to it, especially when it did happen. But you know what it is? You know what I think it really... So let me just finish that point, actually. So I think the reason that I forgot to bring it up in the first place was because I just like willed it into existence in my head. And so by the time you actually see the Woj tweet where you're like, hey, yeah, 2 years, $52 million for Tobias Harris from the Detroit Pistons, you're just like, oh, yeah, I forgot that wasn't actually real. We had just sort of conjured that in our heads. And up until that point, it was actually still conjecture, and now it's actually real. And I think... This is what I was going to derail myself with. I think the reason that Pistons fans were so quick to come around on it is because of what the figures ended up being. I mean, when we're hearing in January that the Pistons are looking at maxing out Tobias Harris because they have $60+ million in cap space, and then you hear if it's not him, it's going to be Miles Bridges. So what are you left to do? You're left to be, what the hell? Huh? Like, what? So, huh? So when you get that guy at a reasonable number, again, at $26 million a year, 31 years old, this is of no consequence if you're Detroit. Like, this literally is only a win. This is only awesome. And I haven't looked into this much yet, like numbers-wise. But, you know, if I'm the Pistons, who I'm looking at, because I'm thinking, okay, so we went into the summer with $60 and change million in open cap. And we want to take on bad contracts and we want to get future capital. Cool. So now my question is this. Pistons fans, what do you think about Pat Connaughton? What do you think about him? Because I look at Milwaukee and I see a team that for the 2024-2025 season is going to have 182 and change million on the books. And you think that's a team that could use some relief. Hence why they probably were not able to keep Malik Beasley at that price point of $6 million. You couldn't. Okay, all right. Okay, go ahead. And why is that? Well, you're paying Giannis and Dame upwards of 50 this year. You're paying Chris Middleton 31.6. Brook Lopez is making 23 flat. And there have been some weird reports coming out about that like the Bucks actually want a first. Like they would take a late first for Brook Lopez. And there's been the word floating out there that like the Pistons actually kind of might want to get in on this. And my thing with, okay, so what are you doing? Are you giving them Stu? What the hell's happening here? Can they take, they could take that technically, and that would be relief. That would count as relief. And then, I don't know, if you're Detroit, you're like, whatever you have left over from the Dame and Drew trades, like whatever you have left over, probably like a 2039 second round pick or something like that, send that over. I would rather have Pat Connaughton though. Damn, he's 31. I didn't realize that. And Pat Connaughton he plays games. That's the thing that we have in common with all the dudes that, that we've been talking about with Tim Hardaway Jr. And Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris. These are all Iron Men. These are guys who, play upwards of 65, 70 games a season, and it's been like that their entire careers. Pat Connaughton isn't entirely different. Doesn't take that many threes. He takes a pretty decent number of them. Average 3.5 attempts per game on his career. About 36% from the field. If you're Detroit, like, is this not... I forgot he played for Portland. Whoa, wasn't he when he was in the dunk contest, I think he was playing for Milwaukee, a Bucks fan. Someone will be very protective over that. Be like, actually, he was playing for this team. Thank you very much. I don't remember who he was playing for when he was in the dunk contest, which is the other piece of this. That Detroit doesn't have that many players that are athletic, really, at all. And Pat Connaughton is just insanely athletic. That dude can jump out of the gym. So that'd be fun. And, give Cade a guy like that. And not that really, I say that like Pat Connaughton is going to be catching like 75-foot lobs. Remember when, had to have been Zion's rookie year, when Lonzo threw did this happen in real life, or is this one of those instances where I had a dream about some cool shit and I just remembered? No, this happened. Lonzo threw a half-court lob to Zion, right? That was a real thing that happened. I'm not making that up. That definitely did happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Cade and Pat Connaughton, but I do think that they should go get him. It's $9 million. Not only is it $9 million, but you also have him for next year, too. I mean, it's a player option at 9.4. You think he's going to opt into that? Oh, actually, sneaky. I don't know if he would. Dude, this is crazy. When was the last time you looked at Dame's or Giannis's contracts? Shout out to Greece, by the way. Shout out to them for qualifying for the Olympics. Giannis getting them in. Giannis kicked out Luka. And then what else happened in the qualifying rounds? Bruno Caboclo, actually, for Brazil, they won by like 30, knocked out Lithuania. So Brazil will qualify because of Mr. 2 years away from being 2 years away himself. Bruno Caboclo. Shout out to him for actually playing like international basketball. Bruno Caboclo for Team Brazil. Okay, all right, cool. So shout out to them. But the contracts... Dude, so I said they're both making 50 this year, like north of it. And then next year for Giannis jumps 20 million. Is this an extent? What the fuck? How does it jump that much? Is this like a separate extension? That's bizarre. So Giannis goes from 48 to 68 and then to 73 to 80. A player option in 27-28 for $80 million. You think he opts into that? And what do we have left for Dame? Dame's only got 3 years left. Player option on 2 of them, actually. Wait, I'm assuming he opted into this. Did I just not see that? It doesn't matter, Nick. So again, 48 this year, 58 next year. He goes up 10, and then 63. So in 1 year, they will have 100 and what's the math on that? $39 million tied up between 2 players. That's like basically what the Timberwolves are doing right now. But that's 3 players. This is only 2 of them. So do something. Do something cool. Oh, what's that, Nick? You're talking about all this cool stuff that the Pistons have been doing, but you didn't mention the fact that Simone Fontecchio is back? That they're running it back with the tech meister himself? 2 years, $16 million? I'm sitting here talking about all this floor spacing and like dudes who play hard and play in games and like really want to be here and compete. And I don't mention the fact, incredible value. Incredible value. Truly, I say this. Even though it is my team, I believe this in my heart. I would say this if anywhere that he went. Any team that signed Simone Fontecchio to a 2-year, $16 million contract this offseason, they had the deal of the summer. It's fucking insane value. That's insane value. That's like if it's 2015 and you signed Trevor Ariza to like a 3 for 17. What the hell? Not 3 for 17. 3 for 25. 3 for 20. You got Trevor Ariza for 3 for 25. You got Harrison Barnes for 3 for 30 in 2015. It's the same picture. .jpg. Like Fontecchio's good. He's good. And if you've, I love. There's nothing that warms my heart more than when one of you out there will reach out and be like, "Hey man, I just started listening recently." First of all, no idea how you figured out. No idea how you found the show. But I love when that happens, man. I love when you guys figure out that the show exists and then are like, I'm going to reach out to him. Like, this is fun. I kind of want to participate in this. It lets me know that this is working. You know what I mean? So the reason that I brought that up in the first place was because if you haven't been listening for a while, when the show first started, when the NBA season started back in like November, Detroit was playing a game. I think it was in Utah. And Fontecchio was lighting us up, and I get on this program, and I was like, who the fuck is that? I go, that's for the first time in I don't know how many years, I turned on an NBA game and had zero idea who a guy was. It was Simone Fontecchio, and he was lighting us up. So then when February comes around, and we basically got him for a bag of basketballs. I mean, that was, honest to God, probably Troy Weaver's best move that he did. Which, by the way, why do we have beat reporters shading Troy Weaver in retrospect? Would have fallen on your sword for him like a month ago. You would have defended a lot of information on that person's behalf a month ago. I understand how the industry, I get how the business works. Like, I get, why you have to protect certain relationships, and, you need to be very meticulous with your words. But I think it sucks to not be critical in the way that you criticize somebody after they lose your job. Motherfucking better have been the way that you were criticizing them when they had the job. You know what I mean? Like, you can go a little bit harder after they're gone. That's one thing. Like, you can go a little bit harder. But like when you completely pivot and like the shit that you're saying now, you wouldn't have dared said a month ago when that person still had the job, comes off to me as transparent. Comes off as transparent, and it comes off as really lame. And then so now you're just okay. So now it's just the song and dance for the new regime, right? And speaking of new regimes, so all this action that Detroit is getting in on, you're scratching your head. So we mentioned that they had 27 to roughly 27 of that 27 million of that 60 cap is still open. So dog, we could still see this team wheeling and dealing. I mean, it's not inconceivable to think that they leave 8 to 10 million of that completely open going into the season. Maybe something materializes in the middle of the season, or you just roll it into the off, whatever it is. So don't expect them to have to use all of it, but it certainly opens up the possibility that a third team, rather that Detroit could be the third team in one of these mega trades that we might have coming up. I mean, in the next couple of months, who knows? Some weird shit could happen at the Olympics, and like somebody has a weird conversation, and some feathers get ruffled, and next thing you know, like a guy's asking out, and so that could happen. It could happen. My question is this. Pistons are looking like an NBA team, but they're also kind of looking like maybe Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart should be here. It's actually kind of looking like maybe they're positioning themselves so like Isaiah Stewart can be the backup 5, and then you bring Jaden Ivey in off the bench and let him lead the second unit. Like it actually just kind of looks like maybe it makes sense to keep them now. And this is what sucks for Jaden Ivey and the siren in the background. I apologize if it sounds like maybe it's going away now, but I was really trying to talk through it, and then it just kind of stayed here. So no matter what happens with Jaden Ivey, no matter what happens, this will be his third coach in 3 seasons. That sucks for him. And when I say no matter what happens, I just mean if Detroit decides to keep him, or if they decide to part ways with him, no matter what, he'll be playing for his third coach in as many seasons. And that's going to be tough for anybody, much less when you were drafted by a team who doesn't need you or doesn't know how to use you. Part of the doesn't know how to use you, I say, quote unquote, is because he just hasn't had the right coach. I don't think he was really ready to do anything in his rookie year. I think he kind of just needed to go out there and figure it out and figure out how to, absorb contact and how to get to the rim. And how to shoot would be nice. We kind of got there a little bit this last year. That new assistant coach everybody loves to talk about, that we poached from New Orleans. Hey, maybe Ivey's going to be a sniper, but it will be interesting to see what this management decides is his fate. And then you also wonder, because I say, a big mega trade could come up, and who would be involved in that? Who the hell is even going to get traded? It just clicked. It would be Lauri. So if the Lauri Markkanen thing happens, then that would be, which is, I don't get what is going on. Why did this start? What did I miss? Because I thought we went from like the season ended and teams were just were just talking about, man, wouldn't it be cool if Lauri played for my team? And then people sort of just said it enough that eventually we were talking about Lauri Markkanen trades, and now we're actually talking about it. And how the price is such. Can I tell you something, honestly? I don't know if I believe this, but let's talk about it out loud and see if I believe this or not. So only one way to find out. A team that I think could swoop in on this Lauri Markkanen thing might be the Sacramento Kings. I don't know what their stash is looking like these days. I don't know what treasure trove Monty McNair has built up in terms of draft picks. I don't know what they've had to shell out over the, I don't, which is definitely a big piece of this, right? Because we've heard, varying reports on what Lauri Markkanen would demand on the open market. We've heard 2 firsts, 3 firsts, 4 firsts, and, an all-star player. Like, we've heard some crazy stuff. It's hard to know. But the most recent suggestion in terms of player value is like, okay, well, we heard Mikal Bridges was worth 4 first-round picks, and then he basically was. It's like 4 firsts and like 2 swaps and like some other bullshit. It was a lot of stuff, right? So what do you get for Lauri Markkanen, a dude who just made an all-star team? I wonder if Sacramento, we talked about them at the top of this one, having a really feel-good story for the first time in 20-plus years, making the playoffs a season ago. And despite losing to a team that really, really hurt, of all teams, it really sucked for them to lose to Golden State. It really sucked to lose in 7, right? It was still really cool for them to be in that position. To have a disappointing year this year, to kind of trend downwards a little bit, seemingly, despite like De'Aaron Fox having a renaissance season. Domantas Sabonis running dribble handoffs until he fucking cries, but like in a happy way. Malik Monk being a 6th man of the year candidate right up until the end when he got hurt. We were looking at the Kings as like, I don't know, we kind of gave up on them pretty early on in the season. And then out of the rafters, out of nowhere, we just are like, oh, by the way, they're going to go trade for DeMar DeRozan. How fast did that one materialize? Did you guys pick up on that one too? It just kind of happened. And we knew that the DeMar DeRozan thing was festering. We had heard ever since the Giddey trade that like that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for DeRozan. You can trade away Caruso, that's one thing, but if you're going to bring in Giddey, like I'm just not going to play here. And the Bulls heard him out on that. I give them some credit for that, by the way. They didn't drag this out. They very easily could have. They were like, we want to get this thing jump-started just as much as you do, so why don't we find, amicably, the best solution? And that ended up being the Sacramento Kings. A sign and trade with the Sacramento Kings that got him locked up for 3 more years. And then what had to have been the fastest, is this the quickest turnaround in terms of like team acquires player is not, it wasn't a formal introduction. I mean, they didn't, bring him up on a podium and, have him hold up a jersey and all that. But like he went to the Kings Summer League game and he was just like there repping the Kings, which was awesome. The closest thing I can think of, we actually just talked about this on the shoot around the other day. The closest thing I can think of in real time is when DeMarcus Cousins during All-Star Weekend in New Orleans was literally traded to New Orleans, and he found out about it in the middle of an interview because someone who I would assume was his agent or maybe the the comms director for the whoever was doing it for the All-Star game, leaned in his ear and was like, "Hey, dog, you just got traded, and they're probably going to ask you about it." And he was like, "What?" This was kind of the closest thing. Like it really just kind of happened, and so a Sacramento Kings team that is really looking, I just wonder if they're not done. And I wonder if they have the juice to get a Lauri Markkanen deal done and what that looks like for, first of all, bringing in DeMar DeRozan when you had a Sacramento Kings team that like 95% of their offense was already predicated on how many dribble handoffs can we run and can we run all of them? Well, now they have DeMar DeRozan, and if you thought that they were running like honest to God, like 85 of them a game, that's all that it's going to be now. Do you guys see this thing that DeMar DeRozan only has 86 less career points than Steph Curry? Same draft class, 2009. I think the craziest part about this, all-time scoring list, by the way, is what we're talking about. 86 less career points than Steph Curry for DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan only has 531 threes in his career. Steph Curry has 3,747, which, by the way, is the all-time record. Is that not that? What is that, like 42% of Steph's all-time points? A real hashtag Rain Man moment there for me, by the way. Like 42% of Steph's points all-time have come from 3, and the math on that is like fucking 15% for DeMar DeRozan. That's a bucket getter, son. This isn't just some fancy-dancy motherfucking trade made out west. This is some real Hooper shit. No Hooper versus basketball player either way. No Hooper versus basketball shit either, by the way. I mean this in an endearing way. Domantas Sabonis has kind of formed into like your favorite player's favorite player territory, I think. At least, right? Because although, no, you don't really see too many dudes around the league singing his praises, which, by the way, once again, Lithuania, which I believe is where Domantas Sabonis is, I believe that is his country of origin, like he said the motherfucking spelling bee. They were knocked out by Bruno Caboclo. Team Brazil. That's a real thing that happened. Domantas Sabonis, Team Lithuania. I don't know if he's actually, maybe I'm thinking, am I conflating him and Davis Bertans? I'm pretty sure they both play on the same team. Pretty sure they both play on the same team. No Luka in the Olympics either, right? That sucks. But damn, does it feel good Americans out there, does it feel kind of cool seeing all the dudes like show up for Team USA and it's not like fucking Jason Tatum and like Donovan Mitchell? You're like, it's LeBron James and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, and like you're like, whoa. It's like awesome. It's literally just the Avengers. Like they got back. I don't care how old they are. I do not care how old they are. I don't know. The last time I was this excited, I was gonna say I don't know the last time. I do know the last time I was this excited to watch international basketball was the 2015. Was it 14 or 15? What year was the FIBA World Cup? I think that would have been 14. It was that year. It was the year that yeah. That was Clay's first year with like facial hair at all. He was doing the goatee, and Steph was wearing the Curry 2s, I believe, because they went. No, doesn't matter, Nick. But that was the year that they ended. That was the Golden State's first championship. So it was 2014 because it was 14-15 was their first ring. So that was the last time I was this excited to watch international basketball, and I have no idea how they're gonna do. How did Spain end up doing? I guess I probably just shouldn't even speculate on how that one went. Because if I did, I didn't look at it. So I don't know. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, what do you guys say? We do a nice little pivot. We do some emails. copinghoursubs@gmail.com is the email to the show, spelled phonetically. Email is available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this show. Hey, here's one not worth talking about too much. This one came in from Michael. Michael, thank you for emailing in. Welcome to the show. Subject line, Chicago NASCAR race. Hey, no, a longtime listener. Was just curious if you're going to attend or watch any of the NASCAR race that's in the streets of Chicago this weekend. You don't quite seem like the NASCAR type, but I'd love to hear some NASCAR takes on the show one day. Thanks, man, and hope you and the family have a happy and healthy year. Thank you very much, dude. No, we didn't do anything. I was trying to think. The only thing involving NASCAR that we did this weekend. I say we, it was me. I went on a bike ride downtown earlier today because I went to the movie theaters to see MaXXXine, and on my way back home from that, I had to ride past all of the like the grandstands and all the closed off streets and shit like that. So like I saw the setup, which was cool, because that's what the problem with it is it's so when you watch the NASCAR race on TV and you're like, wow, Chicago, like it's in the city, it's so cool. You're looking at my house and you're seeing how disruptive it is, because it's literally happening right out here, right here. Looking at it, it's right there, right out there. So it's been insanely disruptive. You have that on top of 4th of July, which, by the way, fireworks had already been going on for like 3 weeks since Juneteenth. So like that's just been a thing. Motherfuckers just being so. Somebody got shot like a block, like not even a block away, just the other day. Ambulances. Sorry, I just bumped the desk, probably super loud. Sorry about that. I'm the worst host. Somebody got shot the other. There's just always something going on, man. It's always something going on. So no, honest to God, NASCAR being here ended up being way more of an inconvenience than anything else. God forbid F1 ever shows up. That's happened though. I don't know if that's been a thing. I don't know. Because I lie to myself and say I like F1 more than I like NASCAR. It's true, but I don't really, I consume F1 so casually. I read about the races way more than I'm actually able to watch them. And it's not even necessarily a time difference thing. It's more just, am I actually going to do it? But we are Team Charles over here, otherwise known as hashtag Team Ferrari, which means that we are also, what the hell is his name? What's his name? What's the guy's name? Leaving Lewis Hamilton. We are also Team hashtag Lewis Hamilton. So that's what we got for that one. Let's jump into another email. Thank you, Michael, for that one. I'm not a huge NASCAR guy. Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Kurt Busch, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Danica Patrick. Danica Patrick at the time also was doing those GoDaddy commercials. You guys remember those? Weird that people seem to have forgotten that GoDaddy commercials used to be like horny, like porn. Like the whole appeal of the commercials was to like get you to go to the website and to get you to be like, what the hell is this website? GoDaddy.com. Because the commercials were always like a bunch of chicks being like, oh my God, GoDaddy.com. Like, you'll have to go check this out. And Danica Patrick being like, I drive a fast car. You're like, what the hell? And then GoDaddy, I guess, just stopped making commercials. So now, for real this time, let's actually go to a different email from Benjamin. Benjamin? I feel like you're supposed to say it. Benjamin, welcome back to the show. I feel like every time I've pronounced your name differently. So if I'm doing it, go ahead and send me a correction. You email in frequently enough that I feel like it's worth the correction. I'm going to go with Benjamin. Welcome back to the show. Subject line, America's moments. Hi, Nick. You saying in the last episode that America hasn't had any capital M, bolded, italicized, underlined moments since the moon landing is a big-time doomer take. First off, the world as a whole hadn't really had anything like that since and in general, but it kind of feels like we jumped the shark since then. But other than that, here are some moments that may have been overlooked in no particular order. Number 1, killing Osama bin Laden was a pretty big one, IMO. I know, ultra left-wing rich kids on TikTok are reading his manifesto and thinking, oh my God, so true. But I think that's just because they are detached from reality and they're super expensive NYC private colleges. Number 2, brokering peace between Israel and the UAE as the first Israeli-Arabic peace treaty was quite the accomplishment in my book. It was the first of its kind and proved to be a real bond when Iran attacked Israel a few months ago, and the nations with peace aided in defending from the missiles. So far, I honestly don't have that many notes, by the way, just to break the email. Actually, the reason I'm reading all of this is because I think these are all fair. We'll see we'll get back to all of it at the end. Number 3, there are 4 in total. Number 3, people hate on Reagan, but the INF deal with Gorbachev was instrumental in bringing down the Soviet Union. Parenthetically, obviously, no one thought that another dictator would come to power, but whatever. That one's probably the best one, I think. But then, yeah, you look at it through the lens of, okay, so the collapse of the wall and the dismantling of the Soviet Union collapsing birthed a man so resentful that he would stop at what? To see it return to that same form and to see all of the territories be reclaimed by his motherland. So that's what that one birthed. So which one's worse? You know what I mean? But maybe that's just me being nitpicky. And the final one, in the sports world, the big ones are the Redeem Team, the 2016 women's gymnastics team, Michael Phelps, Floyd versus Pacquiao, and inventing skateboarding. None of these are huge moments, but they are moments nonetheless. This is an awesome email, and that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I think the reason I wanted to read it was because of the end. And maybe it would be fun to think of all of the sports moments that make me genuinely proud to be an American. The first one that comes to mind is Leicester City winning the Premier League. Made me very proud to be an American. The second one that comes to mind, which, by the way, why the Redeem Team and not just the motherfucking Dream Team, by the way? The moon landing was in 1969. You could have done the Dream Team. We can say that. Let's just go with the Dream Team. It's okay. Cinematically, Dune Part 2, that made me happy. Not made by an American, though. Also, I don't think it was written by an American either, the original. Well, but Leicester City, if that can make me feel like an American, then I think this guy... Here's a good one. You want a real one? You want a real one? Joey Chestnut eating 74 hot dogs. Hot dog and buns, by the way, a couple of years ago. Anytime that man has touched 70, which I think he's done 3 times. I think he's done 70, 71, and 74. That's just... Talk about the US of A, baby, knocking down 74 hot dogs in like 10 minutes. And then getting banned from the eating contest. I don't know if you guys watched the hot dog eating contest this 4th of July. The competitor list was bad. It was brutal. It's brutal. The one of the more niche areas of expertise that I have is in the competitive eating world, mainly because of the YouTubers that I watch, and a lot of them just double as actual competitors. Some of them are just like I go restaurant to restaurant and I just eat all their food challenges. Some of them are just like, you know what pisses me off? Can I give you a like couch cushion, what the fuck are you talking about type of person that bothers me? Anytime you see, it could be long form, short form, you see like YouTube shorts and TikToks, IG Reels, shit like that way more than anything. People putting up like food hacks, like go to McDonald's and they buy 6 menu items, combine all of them, like shake it all up. They're like, go to Chick-fil-A, get this thing, get the mac and cheese, get the chicken, and then put it all in a thing and then shake it up. And I'm like, that's not a hack. It's not a hack. You just spent $30 to like make a bunch of shit. Like I'm sure it bangs. Like I'm sure it's really good, but that's not a real thing. The competitive eaters I watch though, man, there's like, you want to know, people love to do rap beef. They love to do sports beef. You know, people just in general are very confrontational these days, right? There are levels of conflict that you see within competitive eating YouTube that are hilarious. The weirdest spaces that I have seen people be like beef on YouTube. Have you guys ever watched those people who like review like airlines and trains, like Amtrak and I don't know, whatever the Amtrak equivalent is in Europe that gets you guys around? Bullet trains in Japan and shit like that, like transportation. Like that's just what they do. They just review that. Oh, I took a first class ticket from this place to this place, and now you don't have to, like, stuff like that. That's just what they do. Watch those YouTubers and watch them send shots at each other. It's the weirdest shit in the world. It's the weirdest shit in the world because it's not even about like because I'm like, you guys are all flying the same shit. You guys are all doing this. At some point, you guys are going to overlap with the content that you guys are doing. It's not about the content. And it's the same thing with the competitive eaters where there's such interesting, I don't think etiquette's the word, maybe. With competitive eating, I go to a restaurant and there's a crazy burger challenge. It's 10 patties and, you know, a pound of bacon and whatever else. And they say, you got 30 minutes to do this. One of the YouTubers that I watch will hear 30 minutes and say, I'm going to do this in 5 so that nobody can touch my record. Nobody's touching my record. That means a lot to them. The other guy I watch hears 30 minutes. I'll use I know I'm going to do it. I'm going to wait until, 28 minutes and 17 seconds to do this last bite, though. Like, he'll take his time because it's not about him. Like, it's about the experience. It's fucking weird. And then you get onto, like, NBA YouTube, and what do we beef with people about on here? We're like, you root for a team that sucks. You root for a team that sucks, and also you fell off. 0 views in 6 seconds. You fell off, and you're lame. That's, man. You know what's there's like a perspective of those types of comments that if you've not, I'm not saying this in like if you've never done, till you've done this, you won't know what it feels like. I'm not saying that at all. There's just no other way for me to say what I'm about to say. If you've like only ever commented, you've never uploaded a video on anything in your entire life and you do not plan to, comments like that and the relationship that you have with them are like fundamentally different. And that's interesting to me. I'm not saying I don't understand why they're different. I'm just saying it's interesting that someone would say like, just the you fell off shit. Like what, 1 view in 2 minutes? Like your channel sucks now. Like your channel died. First of all, yes. Yeah. But second of all, like you saying that and then me receiving that and being like, damn. Although what's the last time that I read a comment that it actually bothered me? Probably the ones that say that I sound like Ben Shapiro. Because some of you guys say that I sound like Ben Shapiro normal. And some of you say that you have to turn it on 1.25 times speed. And then it's like basically the same cadence. It's the same picture.jpg. Let's do another email though, folks, because I feel like I started to trail a little bit and I started to ISO and actually talk about nothing. I guess that was... No, let's do this one. I want to reiterate this from Grayson. Grayson was actually a listener, I believe, of the Bun and Cardigan show. So big shout out to Grayson. Grayson, welcome back to the show. Subject line, are we in season 2? Mr. Motown, big fan of the show. Big fan of the new version of Primary Control. Does this mean we're in season 2 of the Coping Hour, so to speak? This feels like the change to the MASH theme song after season 3, a refreshing tweak on a classic intro/outro. I'm going to break the email there. First of all, yes, we did talk about this a couple episodes ago on the tail end, though, so if you weren't able to catch it, I'm not mad at you. Not you, Grayson, just in general. But I'm also not mad at you, Grayson. Thank you for the email. I was feeling very manic, and I just needed to change something that felt like a big change in my life and that it felt like had meaning, but in reality it was inconsequential and I could do whatever I wanted and it wouldn't matter. I just needed to do something like that, and then it clicked with me. I was like, oh, so yeah, it's like Doctor Who and we're just going to change the theme song every once in a while. So, I mean, even with the presentation of the show, obviously we've done a completely different camera angle starting with episode 61. And then before that, it was like every 10 to 13 episodes, I would change a graphic. I would change something up in the corner, or the first 15 episodes of this show, there was a border around, and everything about it, like from a just a presentation standpoint, is constantly changing. A lot of it might just be marginal and you might not notice it, or some of you just don't watch it, so of course you're not going to notice that. But yeah, man, I just wanted to change things up and give the show, at least visually, a more maybe refreshing. Well, yeah, I just wanted to refresh it, actually. But the second part of your email here, we got two things for the show. Grayson, you emailed in and you said, I remember you mentioning something in the early days of the show that if Troy Weaver ever got canned, we'd learned why the Pistons gave up so many second-round picks in the Luke Kennard trade. Are you able to shine a light on why this occurred? I don't think this one matters anymore. I think I can just say this because it doesn't fucking matter. The cap guy fucked up. That's all it was. That was all. Unless the version of events has changed since this story was told to me. The original deal that they had in place was significantly, it might have been completely different players. I don't remember, honestly. But it was also significantly less picks because it ended up being like 4 or 5 fucking second round picks. Please be fucking serious. And the Pistons cap guy fucked up on our end. And so we thought the original deal would work. And then it didn't. And then the Clippers wanted to pull out. And we had to, as like a sorry about that, I guess, as the story goes, scrape them a few second round picks. And that was the one that ended up being Sadiq, I think. That ended up being Sadiq or Isaiah Stewart. So one of those two players. How did that one work out? I would love Luke Kennard on this team today. I mean, I would have never have traded him in the first place if it were up to me. But how would he look on this team? I can talk about Pat Connaughton all I want. I would give up some stupid stuff for a guy like Luke Kennard or a guy like Colin Sexton, even, is something I would do something crazy for. Pause. Second part of this one, I'm not reading this. You almost tricked me. You almost tricked me there, Grayson. You almost had my ass. Almost had me reading some Tour de France emails. I'm not doing that. It's like the guy who kept trying to get me to do the cross country skiing. Although he did eventually get around to that. And then another one we got. I'm not gonna read it because he links a clip in it, and I can't go through I will not be bothered to link audio in this fucking episode. But one of you guys sent in a clip of Special K, Greg Kelser. For those of you who don't know, he is the color commentator for the Detroit Pistons. He has been for my entire life. And he was doing something recently where they were asking him about the show, and he was like, yeah, man, I was there for all 14 wins. It's like I was there for all 68 losses. He's like, this team is too talented. He's like, if you're losing that many games, he's like, it's hard to imagine you're not doing it on purpose. Huh. And so when you hear something like that from a voice of that note, kind of raise your eyebrows a little bit. You think, so even he's convinced that Monty was maybe trying to do that shit on purpose. And we had also heard and semi-reported on this program that internally, sounds like some Pistons personnel also believed during the season that he was trying to get fired intentionally. Can I tell you something? Can I tell you a secret? He's not my coach anymore. I don't care. It's honestly how I feel. Because I see a lot of people that they try to do some retrospective. I'm not saying a retrospective is bad. If you want to, sort of chronicle the year and think from hire to fire, what was the journey like with Monty Williams? That's fine. But JB Bickerstaff is my coach now. Whoa, that was nasty. I've not said that out loud, I don't think, in that way. JB Bickerstaff is the head coach of the team that I root for, which is the Detroit Pistons. The head coach is JB Bickerstaff. Really just having to get those words out there. And I spent 30 minutes to start the show talking about how productive the Pistons have been and how happy that they've made me. I'm glowing over here, and how everything that they're doing signals that they are an NBA team. Something that we have said about this franchise, not just in recent weeks, but when they hired Monty Williams, I said, taking a big swing like this and offering this type of money is something that only a serious franchise does. And how did we look after that? How did I look after that? And so I say this reluctantly, but a lot of the things that Detroit is doing right now feels like something in line with what a real NBA team would do. And there's some conflict out there over what if the Detroit Pistons are trying to be good at the wrong time. The Detroit Pistons are not trying to be good. They're trying to be competitive. They're trying to be competitive. And why would the Pistons try to be good when the Cooper Flag draft is coming up in this next year? Well, if there's anybody that you don't have to tell to that, wait, hold on. Damn it, I was on a roll. We have learned in the last few years that having the worst record in the NBA actually does not get you the number one pick, and that it does nothing for you, and that this whole tanking thing is bullshit. And it can be fun in the last 2 weeks of the season when you realize it's over and we just need to tank. Just get a few percentage better. That's different. But with how the lottery is set up in 2024, you could have the worst record in the NBA and you have a better chance of picking fifth than you do picking first. So what are you doing if you're Detroit? Either you fuck around and make the play-in, and you are playing competitive games in March, or you're still playing competitive games in March, and guess what? You fall short. You don't make the play-in. That's okay. That's okay. Atlanta was just in the play-in, by the way. Atlanta was just in the play-in. They lost. They lost, but they were there. They got the number one pick, and the Detroit Pistons, who had the worst record in the NBA, did not. So I don't care on paper, is this team going to be too good? I don't even know what that means, brother. Because I'm rooting for a team that hasn't had a winning record in 9 years. And the last time they had a winning record before that was 9 years before that. In the last 18 years, they've had 2 winning seasons, 1 500 season. And all of the rest have been bad. Bad. There's been a lot of sub-25 win seasons in there in the last 20 years of my life. Okay? So I'm pretty beaten down, but I've seen what the NBA gods can do for the Sacramento Kings. And I pray that they do it for me as well. We've got the Summer League coming up. Am I going to get too excited about that? I don't think so, because I don't think this Ron Holland character is I'm not expecting him to go out there and light it up and, do a bunch of cool dribbling and shit like that, put up some cool shots. No, I'm expecting this dude to go out there and put up a 5x5 and it's boring as hell. You know what I mean? 5x5, but in a really YMCA, he's 65, boring kind of way. Which, by the way, happy birthday to him. Just turned 19 years old. Actually a 19-year-old, by the way. Love that we drafted a guy. I will not stop fucking saying this until I see him play, and I shut up about this because I love him. Cannot get enough of the fact that we drafted a guy that we had never spoken to. It doesn't get funnier than that. And you didn't have a coach. But then but damn it, by the time you went into free agency, you had one. You bring in Sidney Lowe. Now Sidney Lowe is back in Detroit. You're like, whoa. So it's man. Who knows? Maybe they'll win me back over. To wrap up today's show, ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, very light spoilers for MaXXXine. For MaXXXine, the newest from Ty West and Mia Goth. Very light spoilers, nothing plot related. We do not do spoilers on this show. Everything will just be very minor character shit. Stuff that I'm only using to get jokes off and won't actually affect your experience. And if you don't care about MaXXXine, I apologize. Then the show's over for you. So, okay. X comes out a few years ago, and I see it, and I'm not a big slasher guy, but I was like, Kid Cudi in this movie, what's this all about? And then it turns out it was actually kind of fun. It was actually kind of awesome, and the kills were fun, and it was a good movie. And then you kind of don't even have that much time to digest it, and we get this trailer for this movie called Pearl, and you're like, what is this? And you're like, oh, it's a sequel. And then you're like, wait, no, it's a prequel? You're like, oh, okay, I didn't know this needed all right, this looks really colorful and really fun. And it comes out, 8 months after X came out? They shot 2 movies back to back, and we're getting 2 movies in the same. Oh, okay, all right, cool. Go and see Pearl, and it fucking changes you as a man. Just changes the chemicals in your brain. It's awesome. Movie rules. And then there's a little teaser for MaXXXine at the end. You're like, dog, they're just doing a trilogy for a slasher? Because Pearl there was legitimate personality to the movie, and it felt like it was a departure from the first one while also adding some context to it where you didn't realize that you needed it or even wanted it. But it was beautiful. So it was a horror Wizard of Oz is what it was. And all right, MaXXXine. Wait damn near 2 years for this movie. And I guess I'm just bummed because my takeaway was, I guess sometimes, man, it's just not worth waiting 2 years for something to come out. And I say that on the tail end of me waiting 2 years for Civil War to come out. And I went and saw that, and it was the most moved I have been by a movie in I don't know how long. I've waited my whole life for a movie like that. And I finally got it. You know what I mean? Like that feeling of that real feeling of, holy shit, this thing that I spent so long thinking about and building up in my head to a point where it was going to be impossible for it to live up to my expectations. What happens when it still does? What happens when, how raw that feeling is? And that was Civil War for me, and I really thought maybe MaXXXine could get there too, but as we got closer to it, I was like, I just don't think this movie's going to know what it wants to be. These trailers just weren't selling me at all. And it's not about Mia Goth. It's not about Ty West. It's not about Elizabeth Debicki. It's not about Giancarlo Despacito. Giancarlo Despacito. It's not about Giancarlo Esposito. It is kind of about Halsey. What the fuck? For those of you who haven't seen it, this is what I mean by a very, very minor character spoiler. She talks like she's in the fucking Sopranos. And I'm not one to be annoying about the dialogue was so bad, or their accents were so bad. It's not about the dialogue being bad or her accent being bad. It was that it was obnoxious. I get that she's Italian in real life, but she's walking around. Hey, I don't want to get snatched up by the Night Stalker. You want to go with me? MaXXXine? I don't want to get snatched up by the Night Stalker, huh? You know these girls, they just keep disappearing. She's like the fucking Fonz. And that's just her character in the movie. All right. I was just bummed, man. This movie was not what it's a real question of, was the movie bad or was it not what I expected it to be? And I think that the way that this trilogy has been, I don't know if cultivated is the right word, but just for lack of better, the cult following that this trilogy has, the zeitgeist built it up in a way that I think it was just going to always be too much to live up to. And then you're like, maybe did we need, I don't know, it just feels like maybe the order of these movies was fucked up. Because at this point, I guess I could have just gone back and watched X, but I'm too far removed from a movie that didn't need all of this. It did not need all of what you're doing. And Ty West is otherwise great. It might comfortably be my least favorite of the three. He's otherwise great. I was just talking to my girlfriend about, he did a mockumentary a couple of years ago called The Sacrament, which is basically they just reenact Jonestown. It's basically all it is. You're drinking the Kool-Aid and shit like that. But they're a documentary crew for Vice News. It's an awesome movie. It's another Ty West. There's another one in there that he has. He did a Western in a Valley of Violence I think is what it's called, with Ethan Hawke. Very have you seen a Western? You've seen it. It's just very quintessentially Western, but I found that to be kind of charming about it, actually, is that it just is what it is. Sometimes movies just kind of are what they are. You see a rom-com, you're like, that was a rom-com, right? This is just kind of a Western with Ethan Hawke. Oh, okay. All right, okay. What else I got for you, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know. Probably does it. Probably does it. Just mentally. It's all over the place. Just in a million pieces. So tiring. Just moving at a million miles an hour constantly. And, new moms and dads out there. Or not, you don't have to be new. At one point you were, though. I just how do you live? Because I'm not even, by the way, the facial hair thing, a lot of you probably don't even, maybe don't notice anything about it, but I keep a very strict facial hair schedule. I only will have a beard when it's football season. It's a football beard. And then when it's not football anymore, when the Super Bowl is done, I shave my beard and I do the mustache for the summer. Mustache summer, football beard. I've been so dejected for my own physical and spiritual health. Grandma, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm taking care of myself. I'm just saying something like facial hair. I got so mad. I looked in the mirror today and I didn't even realize that I just hadn't been shaving my face at all. So I'm sorry, everybody. No football season. We still have 9 Sundays left until the NFL comes back. We have like 6 Saturdays, I think, until college. 6 or 7 Saturdays until college football comes back. Like 1 week, by the way, until college football 25 comes out. I think a week or 2. Shout out to that dude who's getting a vasectomy so that he can have some days off of work so that he can play college football 25. Shout out to that guy. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to protect primary control by leaving a nice little comment for the algorithm. Protected from cyber terrorists, digital warriors, cyber criminals trying to hack into primary control. I will catch you guys in the next one.
Beautiful.